So over the past year, CRPE has really been very involved in kind of the leading edge of taking the pulse of what's happening with AI in education. As we all know, in November of 2022, ChatGPT was released by OpenAI, and that was really a monumental event in education and actually beyond education. About 100 million people adopted it almost immediately. So at that point, AI was definitely on the radar screen of CRPE and the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, and we're really trying to keep a pulse on that. CRPE is really did an excellent job of taking the pulse and doing a lot of rapid response research during COVID. So they basically initiated that same response with AI. And in April of 23, the first publication came out in the 74 from Robin Lake at CRPE, talking about or taking the pulse of principals, leadership within schools, policymakers, to say this is a very big event in education and what is happening. So that was one of the first forays that CRPE did to get the information out there quickly, because educators are looking for direction, they're looking for guidance, and CRPE does an excellent job of that, what we call rapid response, to keep the educators informed about what's happening. So that was early on with the generative AI, the artificial intelligence. CRPE was really ahead of the game, getting the information out there as quickly as possible. We were followed up a short time later by doing a web scrape of what's happening with schools around the country in terms of policy, teacher education, implementation of AI. And that's one of the fortes of CRPE, that they really get out there and take the pulse very quickly. And that information came out in around the September timeframe with another article in the 74 describing what are the trends that we're seeing within education in terms of educating teachers, what policies are they implementing at the district and the state level. That research effort was really what's available publicly on websites that we were able to scrape and consolidate and synthesize for the reading audience of educators. What we found were the policies were really not in place and really evolving. Initially, when ChatGPT came out, it was really banned by many school districts. And then a short time later, I think the districts realized that we need to really address this head on and not try to just ban it. And so some educators were thinking about policies, but they really haven't implemented direct policies yet because they really don't know what this thing is in terms of generative AI. So CRPE was really instrumental in getting the word out in terms of what are districts doing. Some districts are trying to develop initiatives, starting to use AI with their teachers, starting to use AI with their students, but it's still kind of in the infancy phase then. Come to the fall, we initiated a couple of different focus groups. One with superintendents to talk about what AI policies and concerns they might have, and another with heads of schools and principals to see what they were thinking about that. That's being consolidated, and it's going to be a blog post, and it's also going to be a journal article. Myself and some other colleagues within the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College are going to publish in a educational journal here coming very shortly. So that work was really much more intentional, much more focused to see what are they thinking about in terms of training teachers? What are they thinking about adopting new AI or generative AI policies within their schools? And what's the future? What do they think about that? What we discovered there is that their policies are still very much in flux. They're really afraid to set policies because they don't know what this tool really is about. So right now, I would say it's in a state of being defined by the educational leaders and policymakers. In terms of usage, I think we're still in the very, very early stages where teachers are exploring with it, principals and superintendents are inquiring about it. School boards are a little bit hands-off at this point. They're still trying to figure out what this new tool is. But essentially what we did with the focus groups is we really tried to do a dive and to find out exactly what's happening. And they're concerned about the fact that they're not clear about what it should do. They need more help from state and local institutions to help set policies. And they're still in the exploratory phase in terms of how they're going to implement this with teachers and students in their schools. So the work that CRPE has done over the past year has really been centered around rapid response, talking with people in the industry, in the education field about what they're doing, and trying to inform everyone as this evolution of AI is really kind of rolling out. And things are moving so rapidly that schools, quite frankly, are behind the curve and looking for leadership, looking for advice to how do they implement it, what do they do with these new tools in an educational setting. So to this point in the past year, CRPE has been very instrumental in getting out the word, taking a pulse of what's happening, and doing essentially a dipstick of how are they being used, how are teachers using it, and it's in the very early stages. But I think we've really been very instrumental in setting that stage right now. So moving forward with AI, CRPE really has two main initiatives. One is landscape scans, looking at the broader market about what's happening with AI in education. And second, some deeper dive, qualitative interviews and deeper research about what specifically is happening within schools and districts. In terms of the landscape scans, really we're looking at some of the work that we've done in the past in terms of looking at state agencies, school districts, what are the trends, what are the policies, how are they enacting or initiating AI programs within their schools, and really at the broad sense to give the readers and people who are interested in this a big picture view of what's happening with AI in general around the country in terms of implementation and integration into the curriculum and school day. In addition to doing a broad look at the landscape of how AI is being implemented in schools and districts, we are also going to be taking a look at teachers, teacher expectations, teacher training, and how are teachers specifically being trained on and using AI within the classroom. That's going to be a very key component as AI becomes to proliferate, if you will, through the schools and the districts. We really want to take a look at what are teachers doing, how are they adjusting to this, how are curriculums being adjusted, and how does that blend into and integrate with the various initiatives that schools already have in terms of educating children. And the second initiative that CRPE is going to be doing this coming year is what we call deep dives. We're going to be looking at specific districts that are really adopting and they're front leaders in adopting AI, the early adopters. What are they doing? How are they using that? And these are going to be the schools and school districts that we're going to look at and do some qualitative work, some qualitative studies to see how they're implementing that, how it's making a difference in student learning, and also how that's being adopted by teachers. So that's going to be some very interesting research we're going to be doing in the coming year to really do a deeper dive within those early adopter schools and districts that are embracing AI and looking at the opportunities for improving education and making a very big difference, particularly around personalization with learning environment. Another aspect of the deep dives we're going to be doing this year is looking specifically at teacher education within the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, but also broader in terms of how are we preparing teachers for a school environment, for a school curriculum that is integrated with artificial intelligence. And this goes far beyond generative AI. We're also looking at how they use visual images, audio, voice, images to also create a learning environment that's much more multimodal than it is today with a typical generative AI type of environment. So the deep dives are really intended to look deeper at teacher education and also looking at those schools that are the early adopters of AI. And we hope that by doing this, we can create an even more specific picture that we can provide some insights into how this is actually being used in schools and, importantly, how teachers are trained to use AI to really advance student learning throughout the country. My name is Dr. Jim Dunnigan. I'm an instructor within the EDD program within the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. I'm a member of the AI LFC, and I'm also the lead liaison between CRPE and our AI LFC, helping to bridge that gap between some of the research that we're doing here at the college and also the advanced work that CRPE is doing around the country.